Nigel Farage and Donald Trump share a relationship that has been both politically influential and publicly notable, often characterized by mutual admiration and shared political ideologies. Both figures have risen to prominence through populist movements, with Farage being a key architect of Brexit in the UK and Trump emerging as a disruptive force in US politics, culminating in his presidency. Their relationship began to solidify around the time of the Brexit referendum in 2016. Trump, who had expressed support for Brexit, saw Farage as a kindred spirit in the push against established political norms. Farage, in turn, became an early supporter of Trump's presidential campaign. He spoke at Trump rallies, including a notable appearance in Jackson, Mississippi, and was often seen defending Trump's candidacy on various platforms, arguing that Trump, like himself, was not running for pope, but for political change. This mutual respect was publicly acknowledged when Trump referred to Farage as Mr. Brexit, and even suggested him as a possible UK ambassador to the US. Although this never materialised due to political resistance in the UK, post-2016, Farage was the first foreign politician to meet Trump after his election, a meeting that took place in Trump Tower and was widely publicised. This interaction underscored Farage's unique access to Trump, which was not typical for a British politician of his standing. Farage has since maintained this relationship, often leveraging it for his political ends, particularly in enhancing his profile and that of his Reform UK party. He has been seen at Trump's events, including rallies and election night celebrations, showcasing their continued camaraderie. Farage's relationship with Trump has been strategic. He has used this connection to argue for a stronger UK-US relationship, particularly under a Trump presidency, often pitching himself as an informal bridge between the two countries. This was particularly evident when Trump was re-elected in 2024, with Farage attending Trump's victory parties and offering to help mend US-UK relations, especially with the Labour government in power under Keir Starmer. His involvement in US politics during this time also included supporting Trump's campaigns directly, which sometimes drew criticism for neglecting his duties as an MP in Clacton.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much for talking to us. Mr. Trump, President Trump, is he going to be a friend to Britain?
Oh, instinctively, yes, of course. I mean, this is the most pro-British president we've had probably since Eisenhower. So we go back 70 years. And it's partly that his mum, of course, was a Scot, and he's very much his mother's son. He just is. And he loves Scotland. And, of course, he's someone that he doesn't invest much money around the world. But Scotland, of course, he's got Turnberry. He's got the Aberdeen Golf Complex, which is still growing. And culturally, he listens to music. He loves David Bowie, Elton John, Phil Collins. Yeah, he's very, very pro-us. We have an amazing opportunity here, particularly with Brexit. Brexit now gives us the ability to negotiate our way, not just out of tariffs, but actually the opportunity for sectoral free trade agreements. All these things are there for us to do, but there are some problems.
And what are the problems?
The biggest one is the Chagos Islands. I mean, thank goodness the Prime Minister did not sign off with the Mauritian Prime Minister on the transfer of sovereignty before the inauguration, because that's what they were trying to do. Quite frankly, I think if that deal had been signed before the inauguration, I think you could have kissed goodbye to the special relationship for the next 4 years.
You think it's that serious?
I think it's that serious.
Because you mentioned the word tariffs, and I think that's a really interesting area, because that is an understandable concern from a UK perspective,
yeah.
that the imposition of those tariffs could severely economically damage the UK. Is that a likelihood?
He has made it very clear that he wants a tariff regime all over the world. It would be much easier for us to negotiate our way out of it as an independent country than it would have been as part of the European Union. There is no need. I mean, I can tell you this for a fact, that the first Trump term, and I spoke to all the team around him, They really wanted a free trade deal with the United Kingdom at the same time as they were putting tariffs on China and elsewhere. He wanted to show that he wasn't against free trade, but he was against what he saw as unfair trade, namely undercutting, etc. So the opportunity is there. We've got a genuine friend of our country, but Starmer needs to get this right. So Chagos, we've mentioned already. The second issue, I think that if Peter Mandelson is going to be the ambassador, they'll need convincing.
You have attached yourself to the Trump wagon for quite some time. Is there a danger that, let's say there's a big decision about Ukraine, and let's say there are those tariffs that come into place and make the UK significantly weaker, will that damage you back home being allied to Donald Trump?
First things first, they allied themselves to me in the wake of the Brexit referendum.
You've tied yourself quite closely to them too.
I have, and it isn't just Donald Trump that I know. Half the cabinet that are coming in are people I've known for years, and many of them are friends. So yes, I am with this MAGA political movement, of course. But my first loyalty is, of course, to my country. I just believe that the relationship with America is one that can be mutually beneficial and very, very important. If you put me up against a wall, of course, I'm going to support British interests over everything else. But I do believe those interests should be tied together.
Have you spoken to Mr. Trump since you've been here?
I never answer questions of that nature.
Will you get some time with him?
No, it'll be a quick hello, no more than that, on this trip. He's got way too much to do. And he's got, he's also got some big stuff on the world stage to do, such as the Ukraine peace deal, the Ukraine-Russia peace deal that they're already working on very hard. I've enjoyed a good relationship with him. I've stood loyally beside him when at times it wasn't always easy, and I've never wavered in that view.
What times would you say weren't easy to think?
Oh, there were some comments that got made on Twitter at 5 o'clock in the morning that perhaps caused a bit of pandemonium from time to time, one or two controversies. But, I saw him in that 4 years as a peacemaker around the world, rather than what we'd had for so many years before, American presidents rushing off to war everywhere and us going in the wake of it. And I think I genuinely believe he's what the world needs.
If you won't tell us whether you're going to spend some time with Donald Trump while you're here, will you get the opportunity to speak to Elon Musk?
Yes.
Have you already?
We're talking.
Because the most recent correspondence we had from him with regards to yourself was that you should be replaced as...
That was some time ago.
Okay.
This is a fast-moving scene with Elon. It moves every day.
Have you repaired that relationship?
Yes. Yeah. We've agreed there's no conflict between us. There's no need for there to be a conflict between us. He took a different view over a particular issue to me.
Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, and I don't change my mind for anybody. If I believe in something as a matter of principle, I don't change my mind.
Can I ask you, you might be able to say exactly, but what did you say to him to allay his fears about you?
Well, I think he realises that, I've been around for a very long time, that I'm leading a political party in the United Kingdom that has been deeply loyal to, Trump, who he, of course, supports and has put so much money and time and effort into. Look, as for Mr. Robinson, let him do what he wants to do. But I just think that a narrative has been pushed in America by many conservative commentators that somehow this guy's a hero. And yes, of course, he was right to stand up and talk about grooming gangs and things like that. But it's just the rest of his history that politically says to me I can't have anything to do with him.
Because there'll be some people who watch this back home and fundamentally feel that Elon Musk and the growing influence he seems to have back in the UK is a concern. Do you think that's a concern?
We've had this for all time. Lord Beaverbrook, owned the newspapers in between the war.
I'm not asking you about him. I'm asking you about Elon Musk.
Well, no, the point I'm making is that actually the Elon phenomenon is not quite as unusual as you're saying it is. Rupert Murdoch's an Australian, now an American.
But you can argue,
a massive impact over our lives.
You can argue he has even more power than even the great print magnates of the past.
It's certainly, it's a very powerful situation that he has. But you know something? The British public aren't stupid. If they think what Elon Musk is saying makes sense, he'll be very influential. If they think he doesn't make sense, he won't be. Don't underestimate. People are good at making their own minds up. I do think I really do think on the grooming gang horror, he's kind of reawakened a national debate around something that I think most of us feel was covered up.
And from what you've seen in terms of relationships, can Elon Musk and Donald Trump stay close? Because they are huge, you know, influential, big egos, big personalities.
My hope is that Elon Musk, and I believe he will, you know, from tomorrow, will get on with his Doge department, with his looking at the size of the bureaucratic state, the cost of the bureaucratic state, not just in terms of what, you know, American tax dollars to keep these big buildings and all these people working, but in terms of what it does, the sort of opportunity cost end of it. You know, does it stop people setting up businesses and getting moving? And frankly, I think if Elon Musk gets on with that job, it's a huge job. He's stated he wants to save $2 trillion from the budget. If he gets on with that and Trump gets on with governing, it'll be fine.
You've had a few days in Washington. I understand there was a big party at the beginning of the weekend where you were introduced as the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Do you share that view?
I tell you what, once every 50 to 100 years, we get something remarkable happens in British politics. And I think we are potentially at one of those moments. You know, the Liberal Party disappeared after the First World War and were replaced by the Labour Party. Are we at one of those moments? It feels to me like we are, yes. I think there is such a level.
You sit here today genuinely thinking you could be the next Prime Minister?
Yes, I do. I do. I think that our trust and our faith in the two parties, or maybe actually they really are the uniparty, that there isn't much to choose between them. I think the damage they've done to the country in the last couple of decades, the damage particularly to people's quality of life that has occurred, mean people want something different. And I think what we're offering, what I'm trying to offer, is a much more positive vision for how we think about ourselves, how we think about our past, and who we are as a people, and where we're going to go.
Do you think you could be Prime Minister while Donald Trump is still President?
Well, that would be great, but that would... I mean, look, Labour have got a whopping great big majority, okay? The only thing that really brings an early election is if we get an economic meltdown. So, yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't put it at more than 20%, 25%, but it's possible.
And what does... Once you've been here and spent time with whoever you're spending time with, I know you're not telling us who you're talking to, and then you go back to the UK, what is the next step for you, and what is the next step for Reform UK?
Well, we are building. You know, we are putting in place, it sounds boring, but we're putting in place the infrastructure that a political party needs, and that means we're putting in place branches and finding people to be chairmen and secretaries and all those things. We've got 3,500 people have come forward to say they want to be candidates for us in local elections across the country over the next couple of years. So we're going through a very rigorous vetting process for them. We're building a political machine.
Appreciate your time, Nigel Farage. Thank you very much.